Hello, citizens of Gotham, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, Periscope. I am Frank Lavinia. Although it doesn't matter who we are, all that matters is our plan. So, normally I try to I try to stream every day, but the pollen in the last 7 days has done a number on me, and it is amazing um, uh, how much better I feel today. Hopefully, because the meds have finally kind of built up in my system, but also we've had a bit of a deep freeze here in the DC area. Although I was just outside with the dogs, and I do feel myself a little little coffee, not coffee like the coffee you drink, cough like as in coughing. But this arrived. Literally, I saw the guy walk up and drop it off. So I am very happy, and I can also work on my. I probably should work on my Bane impression. But anyway, so in case you're wondering, that's what's going on. Another thing I want to point out is that the very excellent book. It's called Quantum Boost by Brian Lenham, and he was a guest on the Impact Quantum podcast. His book is now available in Portuguese, and I haven't been tracking how many languages this book's been translated into. I think we're at 4, possibly 5. And let me see if I can dig up the link. Bear with me. My dogs are shaking around, shaking off the tension. They're a bit freaked out the fact that I'm in the mask. They don't know what to make of it. Plus, it does change the sound of my voice, which I'm sure kind of is weird to them. Let's see. I'm sharing this window. So yes, it's now available in Portuguese and on the Amazon Brazil marketplace, presumably available also in Portugal. This is a great book. I can't recommend it enough. He was an awesome guest on Impact Quantum, and it was definitely good to see the success. He has a sequel coming out, which I think will be out in a week from now. I think early April, and I have like an air purifier running. Oops. I have an air purifier running, and it's still not enough. What actually is weird is that as long as I go outside and don't kick around the grass or mess with pollen, I'm actually pretty good outside. But this has been the worst allergy attack I've had since I was a child. Like, this has just been crazy ridiculous on how strong this was. And that is what's having a high impact on me this week. And those are dogs wrestling in the background. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And let me tell you, like, yesterday I looked like a prize fighter. Like, my eyes were all swollen. It was horrible. So I didn't stream yesterday. And I want to thank everyone for their well wishes and that I would feel better. Something interesting happened the other day. If I can pull up the site, let me shut that off. Bear with me. I've been thinking about this. So I actually heard from somebody I used to went to high school with, and he pointed out. Hang on. He sent me this story, and there's some very surreal parts to it, but I think it's also a good plan. So I spent most of my formative years in Bayonne, New Jersey, and which is just outside New York City. And what's interesting is that there that has been undeveloped. Here's an aerial kind of photo. That's not what it looks like now. Definitely not what it looked like when I was a kid. But this is Bayonne is kind of and it was largely an industrial kind of petrochemical kind of place. There was the Bayonne Military Ocean Terminal, which is now a cruise port dock. Let's see. I don't like searching on the internet while I'm sharing a screen, but let's dig up the aerial photo. I think this is an interesting use of space. Um, let's see. Let me share that. So the area we're talking about is right here, right by White Glove Moving and Storage, which I don't remember them. But let me pull up the aerial view. And they've been trying to do something with this plot of land for a while. Now, for those of you not familiar with kind of the layout of where this is, can I drop a pin by right mouse clicking? Yeah, no. This is all right. So pretend I dropped a pin there. In retrospect, to kind of where this is literally almost a stone's throw from New York City. So there's the Empire State Building, there's Lower Manhattan, and things like that. So it's definitely got location on its side. There's the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, um, and there's the Cape Liberty Cruise Port, which used to be the Bayonne Military Ocean Terminal. So when the first Desert Storm happened, there was like a lot of tanks and stuff coming in on rail because there's a rail junction that goes through here. In fact, I think there's actually a rail line here, or used to be. Yeah, you kind of see the tracks there that would service all these like industrial areas. So this is Avenue A in Bayonne. And so this is a fairly sizable plot of land. I've heard it be referred to as 12 acres or 16 acres, but it's a lot of land in a fairly expensive area. I mean, I don't know what homes are going for there, but I would imagine it's cheaper than your average lot. So what's interesting about this is that they want to put a production studio here, which I think is an interesting use case. Although I have to say, the thought of palm trees in Bayonne just boggles my mind. They got to be fake, or they have to be somehow protected from the winter weather. But it's an interesting idea because there's people have been wondering what to do with this. So Bayonne has been a um, petrochemical has been a big deal in Bayonne for since Standard Oil, like literally since the lifetime of the original Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller. In fact, if you look at it on the map, wow, there's a Costco there now and a golf club. Things really have changed, and a Lowe's. Um, so basically, this is kind of the corridor where people live, and a little bit here. But you can see from the aerial photos that a lot of this is still petrochemical and still very industrial. And I think this is actually still part of Bayonne. So at least half the city, half the real estate in the city is devoted towards kind of industrial use. When I was a kid, basically 440 was not there. Um, it was 440 kind of ran through the main street of town, Broadway. So that's all relatively new, but basically, like this was all industrial, like where the golf club is, which I boggles my mind. So basically, and there's Staten Island, which is another place where I spent my formative years. And no, I do not know Pete Davidson, in case you're wondering. But it's interesting. So I think so for the longest time they've been wondering what to do with this. I still have some, well, not as many as I used to, but family there. But this was originally supposed to be condos and kind of like a waterfront townhome community, and that apparently never went through. I suspect because there was oh, there's an Amazon warehouse there now. Things really have changed. Um, when I last lived there, Amazon was a very small online book retailer, and I worked for their competitor. Um, uh, um, can't think of the name. Barnes and Noble. How terrible is that? Anyway, um, but yeah, so they've been wondering what to do with this for the longest time. I just assumed that if it didn't become housing or high, basically very expensive kind of townhomes and real estate development, that it would probably become some kind of bio pharma. Big pharma has a huge presence in New Jersey. I just assumed it would be like a kind of an R&D lab or something like that, or a production facility. The other thought I had is maybe it'd be some kind of industrial type incubator space. But I think that the moving it to creating kind of this movie studio um, is pretty interesting. Um, so they basically changed the zoning in 2020 to make film production its primary purpose. And zoning laws are notoriously well, you use your imagination. Um, but 101.5 million square foot film and television studio. I think that's brilliant. And this is why I think that's brilliant. One, it's a low pollution type activity. Plus, if you, a lot of, there's actually a film studios up by the border with Jersey City, somewhere here. I think I remember reading that, was it Oz? One of the big HBO dramas that wasn't Game of Thrones and it wasn't Sopranos, ironically, was actually filmed here. And the New York City kind of entertainment industry, obviously, this is all pre-pandemic, was pretty well established kind of here with the TV studios in Manhattan and a bunch of other, obviously Broadway. Obviously now with post COVID, I'm not sure what that's like. But I also know over in Astoria, this is where the Silver Cup studios were, and this was a pretty big place for um, somewhere around here, somewhere in Queens, basically. Another place I spent my formative years, although usually in Queens, you stay in your own neighborhood. You didn't really travel much. Um, and actually, it's true in Bayonne and the Bronx and Staten Island. Although Staten Island, you're kind of like on an island, so like you always had to go to like the main center shopping district and stuff. Anyway, before I get sidetracked, um, I think it's an interesting use of space because it's unused and it's been empty for at least 15, maybe 20 years since it was a chemical company. This used to be, I think, Best Foods used to be here, um, where Amazon is now. And I want to say this was like a oil refinery type thing. It's interesting to see. I don't know. I think that's a creative use, right? Because housing, I think, would be very, by the time they get all the zoning and all that stuff built, the housing market will probably flip again. Like right now, the housing market is on the up, but I would say it's on the down. Wow, there's a jet ski place in Bayonne now? No way. Wow, things really have changed. It's like a totally different place than where I grew up. There were no jet skis when I was there. This marina was there. And, you know, one of the advantages of having this kind of like on the waterfront, they can shoot kind of waterfront scenes. There's Newark Airport is like just outside there. There's a bridge there that kind of looks like the Sydney Harbor Bridge. Um, Although less is the roadway. But I remember as a kid, I'm feeling nostalgic today. It must be all the allergy meds. I used to point my little antenna. We lived over here. I used to point my antenna at the bridge at night, and I basically use it as a giant antenna. I can pick up radio stations, AM radio stations from far away in Chicago, which I thought was pretty cool. Again, kids, this is before the internet, and you could stream anywhere in the world in real time. But it was cool to hear other news. I would also be able to pick up other radio stations and stuff. It was cool. I never had a shortwave radio at the time, but I bet if I did, I would have picked up a lot of stuff. The other thing I was going to point out was, um, speaking of water, so you could probably like get like a boat service that would go because there used to be a boat service when I lived there. It didn't last very long from like here to the trade center area. And it took, I mean, it was awesome because it made it to like a 25-30 minute commute. And it was cold to be sure in the winter, but it was awesome because the alternative was by bus and train, and that would be like an hour minimum. And this was great because I could just took me longer, it felt like, to walk from my house to to the ferry. But that was a great thing to have. What would have been cool would be if there was like a connector service so I could go from here to the Staten Island ferry. Because that's a pretty well established ferry service. What happens if I click this? No. Um, so that's basically it. A lot of good pizza places there still, I would imagine. I don't remember this place. Oh, I don't remember that place. Good reviews. Um, this used to be another name something else back in the day. Used to be called Pizza Bistro. Really good pizza. Oh, there's a thrift store there now. Huh. So that's basically it. Chocolate and food products. Um, yeah. So proximity to New York, I think it would be an interesting thing to do. It's across the state line, so you'd have a different tax structure. New Jersey, generally speaking, is cheaper than New York State and New York City for sure. And I say cheaper, not cheap. It's a clever use of that plan. I think that's going to have a good impact on Bayonne because you think like, well, it's a TV studio and a movie slot. Like, what is that going to do for the people of Bayonne? I would say that they're going to need electricians. They're going to need carpenters to build the sets and all that sort of thing. There's a whole ecosystem that comes with it. I think it'll be good for. I think it'll be good for Bayonne. You know, I mean, um, so I'm kind of surprised. There was another property somewhere up here where it was a former industrial site. I think this is at Society Hill, Jersey City 1. That's new. Um, that the property values there were very let's say they were always dogged by rumors that there was a toxic dump site on it. So I think that maybe property developers kind of were like, I mean, they sold. It's still probably pretty expensive, but that's interesting. Hudson Lanes, man, I used to go there as a kid. So it's good to see some things are still around. Um, but that's basically, I think that's going to be good. I think it'll be an interesting way to diversify the economy. Bayonne was definitely a very industrial type blue collar place. Um, and obviously industrial, given its proximity to Newark and a lot of the refineries up and down the turnpike, it's obviously makes a lot of sense to have this as a kind of petrochemical area. But diversifying the industries that they rely on, I think, is a smart move, honestly. So I think that's pretty cool. Proximity to shipping, that sort of thing, because Port Newark is somewhere around here. I think that's it, Port Newark. Um, you know, Helicopter tours. Wow, man, things really have changed. Things really have changed. Um, but that's all I got. And thanks for watching. But I think it's a cool idea. The palm trees, though, it's going to take me a while to get my head around that. Palm trees in Bayonne. You know, global warming, I guess. I think they did that so Hollywood people will feel at home because it looks very looks kind of Hollywood. It has a very look water tower. Yeah, very reminiscent of kind of like 50s kind of aesthetic. Maybe that's what they're going for, old Hollywood. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. It'd be kind of cool if they did studio tours too. I'd be definitely looking forward to that. Um, it's an interesting idea. That's all I'll say. I'm showing it now. And I wasn't showing the screen. You can see they're going for a very 50s kind of look, kind of very Hollywood. Which I don't know. I don't know who's going to tell them that palm trees will not survive in a cold climate like that. But hey, man, whatever happens, it's pretty interesting. I think it'll be an interesting idea. Oh, and I have my special guest here today. Who do you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation? Do you? No. Okay. Well, with that, on that note, I think she's asking to go out, so I have my Bane mask, which is it's meant to filter pollen. On another note, speaking of masks and such, I'll be headed to ML this week. Um, unless my allergies go completely haywire, but in which case I have this. Um, I will be headed to ML for a day this week in New York City. It'll be good to go back to the city and kind of spend some time, quote unquote, back home. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. Hope you have a great day. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And if there's anything you would like me to cover. And I can feel my allergies kicking in. So before I start tearing up and while I'm still able to talk and end the stream, you have a fantastic day. Today is Tuesday, High Impact Tuesday. Didn't play the graphic, but I did do a Bane impression in the beginning. So I want to thank you for watching. Have a fantastic day. And the dogs are starting to wrestle at my